Alright, well I've got these inexpensive LED floodlights that I'm using in my yard, and they're meant for indoor and outdoor use, but after about a year, maybe a little less, some of them have stopped working. And I believe that the problem is due to corrosion of the main power leads, which seem to be made of copper-clad aluminum wire rather than regular solid stranded copper wire. So I've taken one of the broken lights out of the yard, and looking at the end of it, the wires were a bit fragile, kind of broke when I tried to pull them apart. I'm going to open up this light and see if there's anything I can do to fix it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take the glass off, and to do that we just take out a couple of screws. They're actually pretty easy to remove. And there we go. Stop. So when we take the glass out, we find that there are some little plastic lenses covering the LEDs. And take those off, don't lose them. And the circuit board with aluminum back as a heatsink comes out pretty easily, but you don't have much wire to play with. So the next thing that I'm going to do is loosen this nut on the back, which clamps the power wire in place. And after I pull it out, I can push the wire through it, and you see there's a little rubber plug there, still holding everything together. And since my plan is to replace these wires, I guess I could just cut them, but for demonstration purposes I'll go ahead and pull that seal off like so. And now if I push the wire in, I can pull it all out. Pause. So I'm going to go ahead and take the yellow tape off here, and that tape covers up a little electrical circuit, protects it from grounding out on the housing. And what you see there is a couple of little solder pads with a little bit of corrosion. It actually doesn't look too bad. It makes me wonder if something else is wrong with this one. But we'll swap out these leads and see what happens. Alright, so now I'm just going to melt the solder off of these connections and get the wires to come loose. One down. Next. Done. Okay, so I've got some copper wire here, and I've already put a little bit of solder on the end of it. I'm going to see if I can attach it to the pads where the original wire had been. And if I'm lucky, this guy will be fixed. Alright, number 2. And that should do it. Alright, so before I put this back together, I want to hook it up to power and see if I get any light out of it. And the answer is yes. So it looks like this one's fixed when we put it back together. Let's go do it. Alright, so first up, yellow tape goes back on. Just got to wrap that around there so that it doesn't leave any of the electrical contacts exposed. I'm going to put some black tape around the ends of it to hold it since it lost its stickiness. Okay, so I've got the black tape holding the yellow tape on. Now I'm going to stick the wires through the hole. And it's a kind of bigger wire, so I may have to fight with it a bit. Actually, I don't think it'll probably fit through that hole, so I'm going to get a drill and make the hole bigger. Be right back. So I'm going to be real careful, as you'll see, opening up that hole a little bit, so hopefully that the larger wires will fit through. This time the wires fit, so I get the wire to poke out, and I take the little seal and roll it back down, starting from the tip all the way down to the base. Try not to laugh when you say that. And now the nut. Got the nut right here. I'm going to push that seal in there and get the nut started by hand before I get out any pliers to tighten it. There it goes. Alright. So, I'm just going to use my electrical pliers to tighten that up a little bit. Doesn't need to be super tight. And that ought to do. Alright. Circuit board back down. I'm going to put my little lenses back on. You notice these lenses have a little opening that goes over the solder pads for the LEDs. It's pretty clear when you're putting it together that that's how they're supposed to go, but just in case you're curious, that guy will go on there. One of these came apart, but we'll put it back together. That guy goes on there. That guy goes in there. Piece of glass. And
the birds.
Retaining ring. Screwdriver. And we'll go test it again. So I'm going to test the light and make sure. You see it still works. That's a good sign. So now I'm just going to make solder connections here to connect it to the power supply, because that ought to hold together better than if I just twist it. And it doesn't have to be anything beautiful, I just want it to cling together as time goes by. One down. All right. Stop. Wrap those connections in black tape to protect them from making contact with anything inadvertently. And you can see my light's still on, which makes me happy. And it looks like we've got a repair. So with any luck, that'll hold up better than the original. Thanks for watching. Good luck.